Hello, today I'm going to be doing a review of the Aspire Mulus. Now, before we even start, I just want to preface this by I've only had this for less than a week, so this is really my early thoughts on it, so I can't really speak to how well it's going to perform over time. This is just what I think of it so far. So the basic details are the cost is £45 to £50, depending on where you pick it up from. The height is 97.4 millimeters, the width is 50 millimeters, and the depth is 24 millimeters. So it is a standard 5 clicks on, 5 clicks off. So that's just to lock it and unlock it. It's basically is always on, but this is the lock and unlock. So let's unlock it for now. It has inside it a single 18650 battery. It doesn't come with a battery, so you have to get that and provide that yourself. And it does up to 80 watts on the board, which is quite strange because none of the coils can go up that high that you can fit in this at the moment. So, but you've got the power there if you ever need it. Capacity in the UK and standard and the TPD, it comes with a 2 mil capacity tank. You can get a 4.3 mil capacity tank for around about £4, and I would recommend doing that. But the tank you get with it is 2.5. It's 2 mils, and that's basically because it's just the 4 mil tank that has got a rubber or silicone grommet in it that brings it down to the 2 mil capacity. So I have had a look at it to try and see if I could get this grommet out of here, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be possible without breaking the quite thin plastic that it encases the pod itself. In the coils, it's quite good that you get 4 coils with this. You get 2 Tigon coils or Tigon coils, a 1.2 mil mouth to lung coil, and a 0.4 mil direct lung coil. It's a very restricted direct lung, but it's a direct lung, restricted direct lung, and that's I have the 4 mil coil in there at the moment in the 2 mil tank. You also get a 1.8 Nautilus coil and a 0.7 ohm mesh Nautilus coil, and I have my standard SS 0.7 ohm Nautilus coil in the extension tank with the like Nautilus bridge, I suppose you would call it, Nautilus adapter that comes with the device, and that is in there at the moment. So let's look at some of the pros, I suppose you would call it, on this tank, things that I like about this device. So obviously, like I said, taking into account that I've only had a few days, but the looks, it looks very good. It's the build quality feels very good. It doesn't feel like a cheap piece of metal plastic at all. It feels quite like it would be quite robust. The front cover, I believe they are going to be providing versions that just have a plain cover on it if you prefer it, but I quite like this cover, and the sort of tactile rubberish finish to it does help with grip, because I think if it was all pure aluminium on it, it would potentially be, it could be a little bit slippy in the hands, but this just gives a nice little bit of extra grip to it, so that's quite like about that. The device is easy to use. I've had no problems taking out the pods and putting them back in and replacing the coils or anything like that, so that's a definite plus side for that. Like I said, it's the fact that it has the cover over the buttons there means you don't have to worry about accidentally changing the wattage or anything at any point, so that's quite nice to have. The door on having the little cover there so you can see the wattage without taking off the door is also another nice little feature. So far I haven't had any problems with filling up, or any problems with like flooding from putting the rubber or silicone bung back into the pod, so that's all pretty good from that side. So again, that just goes into the pros. It does what it needs to, so that's quite a good thing from there. On the Nautilus adapter, it has its own airflow control. For the Tigon coils, there's no airflow control, just what you've got is what you've got, and that's it. You can control the airflow on this, so you can see there. You can open it up. Let's see if we can get this slightly better. It looks a bit better. So yes, you can open it up all the way to there and close it right down. So completely closed, but I normally have it so that air holes almost showing, and that gives me a nice mouth to lung. But as soon as you open it up even slightly, it goes very airy very quickly. So yeah, so that's, you've got your airflow control there. So on to the cons. These aren't really cons really, they're kind of things that I would have liked if they were done slightly differently. So the first one is on the pod itself. I wish the fill port had been at the bottom rather than at the top. And the reason I say that is because when you're filling it up, you're filling up to there and then you're putting the bung back in and the coil is soaking in the liquid at the bottom. You had it the other way up, you'd be filling from that end, and then when you come to put the bung back in, you could lift it up a bit, give some air there to the coil, put the bung back in, and then you would reduce the risk of flooding the coil when the pod pressurizes. So that's just sort of one small thing there. The other thing to mention is for the Nautilus coils, because of the way the adapter works, you can see there, so that's where the coil is there. See that black line there? Let me see if I can just get in a little bit closer, not blind anyone. You can see, so that's where the coil sits there, and then you have all this space, about half a mil, maybe to a mil of space there of juice that you're never going to use. So I would have liked to have seen that a little slightly lower down, but I can understand from the design of this you can't really have the coil any lower than that. But again, that's just a personal thing. I would have liked to seen that lower down so you can utilize all of the juice in your tank or in your pod. The only other thing I would wish that they could have included with it would have been if they'd included a additional drip tip that was a smaller bore for when you're using the mouth to lung coils, as this drip tip is, I found, a little bit too wide a bore for doing mouth to lung with, especially the fact that you've got basically just got tight mouth to lung or very loose mouth to lung as the only two options because of the way the airflow works on this. So that would have just been a nice little addition that I would have liked to have seen them do. So in conclusion, overall I like the device. I'll continue to use it day to day. I've basically been taking this to work with me every day this week, and I've got a funny feeling I'll continue doing it because it's just nice and easy to use, and yeah, there's very little maintenance with it, and if I was out and about and had trouble with a coil, I can just nip into any shop and get a Nautilus coil, no problem. So yeah, so I definitely will be continue to use it, and assuming the build quality holds up over time, yeah, I'd recommend that people who are interested in this to give it a look. Certainly because a lot of the other AIOs recently haven't really been good for the mouth to lung. This one certainly does do it well. Some people, because of the way that airflow works, some people may find they can't get it as tight as they want, but for me it's just right, and I do normally quite a tight mouth to lung. The only thing I would suggest with this is, if you are going to buy one, is spend the extra money and pick up a 4mm tank, because the 2mm capacity, especially with the Nautilus coils, isn't going to be very good, because if you reduce this tank down to 2mm and then you've got that half a mil to a mil of space at the bottom, you're basically going to turn it into a 1mm tank. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on this. Hope you liked it, and I will see you again.